Gloves Off is always on point. On point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by the best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off. If you've ever wondered, if you ever had a clue what would happen if Batman, the Avengers, the X-Men fought the 47 Ronin, you will have great hitting, power strikes, and speed. This event will be known as the North Texas Stick Fighting Championships. It's open to all martial artists. This is where legends are formed, where they're forged, where they are founded. Sign up now. Call the number 956-401-4868 and look up the website at www.savate.biz. So remember, this is for serious martial artists. If you're not serious, sit back and whisper about the event. If not, we'll see you there.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today we have an excellent Laredoan, a woman leader, our ex-mayor, Ms. Betty Flores. How we doing?
I'm doing well, Paul. Thanks for the invite.
No, well, thanks for coming out, and number one, thank you for have led us for those years that you were there.
Very welcome. It was a wonderful time in Laredo, and it was a wonderful time for me.
And now, what I really want to ask is, when was the first time that you looked at yourself in the mirror and said, I'm going to run for a public office? What did you feel, and why did you do that?
Well, I tell you, I felt that all the training I had had at the bank, because Gary Jacobs was very politically involved, so were all the banks.
Sure.
And Gary was very instrumental in, showing me the things that needed to be done to get political attention, political leaders to pay attention to the community or to an issue. And so I had a lot of relationship building during those years at the bank, 29 years. And so when I had a lot of experience in a lot of things. We were involved in a lot of things. So when I came home and I retired, and then Saul left early, he didn't fill his term.
Sure.
I felt like every time somebody else announced, I felt like there was a responsibility, like I had to give back, because what was I going to do with all this knowledge, with all this experience, with all these relationships that I had built throughout the years? Was I just gonna let them go, throw them away? Or was I going to try, and pull on my boots and go and help my community? And so I did. I made that decision, and then little by little I started, feeling people out, asking community organizers like Rafael Torres and Beto Loera, and Ann Richards. I asked those three before I even asked my husband. Because when we were first married, we said we'd support each other in whatever we wanted to do, but not politics. But little by little, I think he saw the need, because when I did ask him after the next person announced, I said, babe, what do you think about me running for mayor? And he turned and looked at me, Paul, and I'll never forget that look in his eyes. And he said, I was thinking the same thing. And that's when I knew that maybe I could win.
That's excellent. And you did win, and you won. What was the first thing that you said when you walked into that office and you met your first problem? What did you do? What did you say? Let me sit back.
Well, I'll tell you that there was a problem that I was very, very in tune to, and that was the traffic on 35 caused by the trailers, the 18-wheelers that were crossing in our international bridges downtown. There were several fatalities, and that to me was just a terrible thing, because I felt like this community, as much as we depend on trade, and Laredo is an international trade community,
sure.
We can't deny that. We think it doesn't affect our daily lives, but it does. And so when I saw the way that it was affecting our way of life, our crossings, our going downtown, just way of life, I thought the very first thing and the one thing that I'm going to promise the people of Laredo is to get that build that bridge that we needed so badly on the Mines Road. And I say on the Mines Road because there was a tradition where if the Mexican side picked one side, then we would pick the name. And every year that we built a bridge, it went back and forth. And this was our year to pick the name, but it was their year to pick the location. And they already had a location on the Mines Road. And in fact, Ann Richards came to Laredo in 1994. She was Mr. South Texas.
Sure.
And she asked me, she said, what do I bring to the people of Laredo? Because in those times, the Mr. South Texas would always bring something in appreciation for the recognition. And I said, Governor, bring us a bridge permit. And she did. She literally sat at the doorsteps of almost every agency that needs to approve it. And I think there's like 52 agencies in Washington. And she brought us and delivered the bridge permit in the Mr. South Texas luncheon. But that was 1994. Now we're in 1998 and nothing has happened.
Nothing has happened. That was the last bridge that was built.
Yes, and so in 1998, I knew that was the most important thing that Laredoans needed. And so the first day in office, when I was sworn in, I said, I'm going to work on getting this diplomatic notes, which is the first thing, but you have to have your financing in place, you have to have your construction plans, all of those. So with Cindy Collazo and her team of experts, we put together the package and we went to start selling it in Washington and in Mexico City. And Paul, by March, I was elected February 14th, Valentine's Day. By March, I had the diplomatic notes.
That's excellent. But then that's a step forward.
Yes.
That's a huge step forward, and now Laredo's #1 in trade and the #1 port.
Can you imagine?
That's excellent. But those footworks, that's something to be proud of, #1.
Absolutely. I didn't want NAFTA to hurt us. I wanted to help us. And at the time, it looked like it was hurting us. But thankfully, we made it work. And Ann was very instrumental in getting us a lot of money to make the widening of the Mines Road, because remember, it was just a 2-lane for many years. And there still needs to be more improvements there, and I know people are working on it, and that's just excellent.
And they need to, because over there it's a little bit more. What do you feel about bridges, about this bridge that the city and the county are trying to come together, and how do you feel about that?
Well, the city has an obligation to own the bridge systems within the city limits. At first, I had thought it might be a good idea to share with the county and perhaps share in the revenue, and that can still be done, but it's gotta be city-owned, number one. We cannot let go of owning our bridges, because otherwise we start affecting taxes. And property taxes for people in our community should not be affected. And those revenues help us.
That's what needs to happen. I think the tax issue and the taxes right now is something that everybody is screaming about, everybody's standing up about, everybody has been complaining everywhere we go. What do you think needs to be done about that? What are some steps, if you were in office, that would say, you know what, let's tackle it this way?
Well, I tell you one thing, the city taxes and the county taxes, even the community college taxes, those taxes are not high. They really are not high, and we need to support the system that those taxes support. But the school district is way out of line, way out of line. Now, I don't say stop giving services to the children, because we need to educate our children. We need to have the very best teachers and pay them well. But is there a way that we can cut down on administrative costs? I mean, we have a lot of administrators everywhere in the school districts, and they get paid a lot of money. Is there a way that we can control those costs? I don't think we've ever looked at that. We've looked at, oh my God, we have these schools and those schools and more schools, and you know, we need to cut down on this, we need to cut down on that. No, let's educate our children. Let's go for it. Let's give them everything they need. But how can we do it smart, so that, you know, with technology you can do a lot of things that we couldn't do before, where you needed more administrators. I think that's the way that we should tackle it.
That's an excellent point of view. That's, you know, because there's way too many. There's way too many administrators, and I think there's double duties or double departments. I think we can just consolidate everything else. And that goes for the county as well as the city. There's a lot of double departments that cross-sect each other, that if you can consolidate everybody, it'll be a lot better.
I think you have to reevaluate yourself every few years and say, okay, what am I doing that's right? What am I doing that's wrong? What can I do better? How can I update my systems so that I can work smarter, so that my people don't have to work so many hours, or they can be more productive? And now with technology, I think a lot of that can happen. But, you know, technology is expensive, so the initial
cost might be
the initial cost, exactly, is going to be a biter. But we've got to take those steps in every one of our taxing entities.
Of course, you know. Here's another question. How do you see Laredo now, from when, before you went into office, when you were in office, and to now? How is it going? Is it moving forward, being stagnant? ¿Cómo lo ves?
I think we've moved forward completely. I really do. And that is all because government has helped. Government does not create jobs, but it can facilitate. But because of the strength of our business community and the strength of our people, that has always been the key to Laredo, is the strength of the Laredo people. Because of that, we, in spite of all these things that get thrown at us, remember the base closing, remember the peso devaluations. I mean, we've had a lot of things thrown at us, but we have survived. Why? Because we have smart business people, and because we have employees, and we have just a community of smart people that can compete anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
And you know, a lot of the mayors, when I was mayor, they would say, oh my God, I'm next to this, you know, this state of whatever, and I can't get anything done because I'm in this state. And I would say, try being next door to another country, and we get things done. And we cannot turn our back. We cannot turn our back, I can't say that enough, to Mexico. We cannot. We have to find a way to manage the cartels, to manage all the bad stuff that happens over there. Together, these two countries have to find a way.
And you are the only one that has said that.
Well, I don't know if I'm the only one that believes it, but I may be the only one that has said it out loud.
Sure.
Because it's scary. It
Of
is
course,
scary.
it is
and
scary.
I understand that. But we have to work together to make it stronger.
It's like we all have that one neighbor that has some bad kids. Okay, and we know that they break into houses, and they know that we do that, and the neighbor comes over and they cry on our shoulder and they tell us, I don't know how to get them out of drugs, how can I help? I think we have to put down and say, you know what, if you want me to, let's go down to the courthouse and let's get them some help and some rehab and let's start putting them straight. I think that's what Mexico has to realize, that the problem is there. When they realize it, then they're going to understand that we can help them get rid of it. But until they realize that, that's not gonna happen.
You know, Paul, you couldn't say anything smarter than that or better than that, because when I was mayor, I started seeing some very ugly changes. And it was the very early onset of
Sure.
these controls that were taking place. And so I went to talk to Vicente Fox.
Sure.
And you know what he told me? He said, if the United States stops buying, we'll stop selling. It's a market deal. And I thought, you know, you've got to accept responsibility.
You have to.
You have to. Because yes, the United States is buying, and we don't talk a lot about the buyer here.
No.
We talk a lot about the seller. And you know, politically we poo-poo on the seller, we poop on the cartels, we poop on everybody else. But what about the buyers here, the users?
You're
What
absolutely
about
correct.
that? We haven't focused enough in these United States about that.
No, you're absolutely correct. I think everybody has, because drugs do not prejudice anybody.
That's
They
right.
hit anybody in any social class, any profession, and they'll hit you hard and they'll sweep you under the rug.
Yes.
And I think society has been so diluted with the feelings of it that they just say, oh, well, you know, let them be. I think we have to pass more laws to the people that are pushing the drug, not the drug user, because he has a habit. The people that are pushing the drugs, and make them a little bit more stiffer for them to understand that if I'm gonna go there, I just ruined a bunch of lives, I'm really going to get sentenced. Not a slap in the wrist, not sticking the user in jail, but instead sticking them into a rehab.
There are countries in this world today where a drug dealer gets killed,
Of course,
period.
they
I mean,
get
you just
executed.
get executed, period. You just get rid of it, period.
Mm-hmm.
End of story, no excuses. And I'm you know, I'm very, I value life, but I also value the life of those people that are being destroyed because the drugs are so easily accessible. And parents just, they don't know what to do anymore. Sometimes law enforcement doesn't know what to do anymore. It's a very bad cancer in our society.
It's a huge cancer, and we have to deal with it. But again, like our neighbors, they also have to come to face that they have a problem, and they have to realize that they have a problem and step up and say, we need help. Until they do that, that one side will never go forward.
That's right.
And but here, I think we're doing some good in certain places.
Yes.
In certain places.
The other thing we have to look at, in my opinion, is the economic stability of these countries that are supplying the drugs. For them, it's a way of life.
Sure.
It's what puts food on the table. So it is a business for them. They don't go I don't think they consciously think about that poor kid that's on the sidewalk, you know, gonna OD. I think a lot of it has to do with it's a business. And so I think business opportunities and manufacturing, all kinds of other legitimate businesses have to happen so that there are other economic opportunities for these folks so that they don't have to get into this business. The same with the kids, they don't have jobs, so what do? They sell.
Of course. I look at it here in Laredo. You have young kids, and I have a lot of students that are police officers. And several months ago, I won't mention his name, he called me up, and you can hear his voice that he was about to cry. Mm. And I told him, what's going on? And he told me, Profe. He goes, can I talk to you? And I go, sure, I'm here at the place. And he goes, I walked into this house, and this 14-year-old boy pulled out a gun on me. He goes, thank you for teaching me to take away a gun without shooting him. And I kind of just stopped, and he goes, they're getting younger, Profe, and nobody wants to do anything about it. Oh. And they had 20-something pounds, okay, of drugs that they had removed from this house. So when you have a mother that's on welfare, that's being sustained by the government, and you have kids that are going out there and they're making $3,000-4,000 a month, the mom's not going to turn them in, not going to do anything about it. It becomes part of the livelihood. So nobody's going to say that. So if the whole neighborhood is doing this, then we have problems, and that's what what's happening now. Our criminals, they're no longer the 18-year-olds that you see them get busted. They're younger and younger. Why? Because at 17, everything gets squashed from the system. Nobody knows that they're doing it because you can't release their names. Understand? So it's kind of, it's hard to swallow, but that is the problem. So we have to do, I always tell all public officials that we have here, we have excellent leadership in many of the departments and offices that we have. We have a lot of rehab. We have a lot of help, but we do not have preventative programs.
No.
The boys club opens up and they're great, the coaches that are teaching, but we need to get these kids and literally monitor them.
Yes.
In a good way for them to understand that an education is where they need to be at.
Yes.
So I wish we all can get together and say, you know what, let's start making preventative programs.
That went away with Ann Richards.
Sure.
Ann Richards was very much involved in pushing preventative programs. I know because I served on different Texans Against Drugs and many other nonprofits that were around at the time. But all of that ended because there were people that believed, hey, we're not going to help you. We're not going to take care of your habit. We're not going to try to improve you if you're just going to go back. So pretty much we gave up on a whole generation of people. God knows what happened to those people. But you're right. I think preventive measures have to be taken with our youngest of the youngest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that
correct.
14-year-old, he should have been in a basketball program or a football program or a karate program, a survival program. I mean, he should have been somewhere where an adult is taking all of that excess energy and putting it to good use. But when there is lack of that, then we get into problems because children will be children and they have a lot of energy and they're looking for things to do. And it's not always going to be the Xbox or the television. It's not always going to be that. It's going to be actual physical something else.
Of course.
They drop off.
Yes, of course. Now, changing that and going, do you have any other thoughts and say, you know what, maybe I'm going to step up and run again and help out Laredo? Does that thought ever cross your mind?
Well, Paul, it does, and funny you ask, because, you know, when I ran for mayor, I felt like it needed a full-time attention, because NAFTA was happening and my community wasn't being protected. And so there were a lot of things that I thought needed direction, but needed full leadership. And so, since I had retired from the bank, I decided I'm gonna run for mayor because I have the time. The same thing has happened now. I was on a bank board, one of the largest rural lenders in the state of Texas and 4 other states. And I decided that since I have more time, I retired from being on that board and I don't travel as much anymore, maybe I can refocus on going back to that bridge that I was so involved in building, and refocus on that community to try and find more balance for those folks that have to put up with the commercial side of Laredo and the living family side of Laredo. You know, when Larry Govalina and I were working together, we worked very hard on trying to get a river road so that those folks had an alternative to get out of the Mines Road area without having to get on the Mines Road. And it, I don't know where it went, but it stopped. But I think it's something that we need to focus again and really look at getting those trucks to their place where they're going, because it's what they want also. Miles cost money. And getting them out as soon as we can. Because remember, they're gonna stop again at the checkpoint. You cannot leave Laredo, and people don't understand this. All my life, I have not been able to leave my community on train, plane, or automobile without somebody asking me my citizenship.
Of course.
How many Americans understand that?
They don't.
They don't.
They don't. And people, they say, oh, the border's not checked. Oh, it's checked so early.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You know, September 11th, I mean, it's a good example. When I saw that plane hit, and I was already picking up the phone, and then I saw the second plane hit, and I was on the phone with the police chief saying, close the bridges, because I knew we were under attack. And I didn't want to be responsible for anything happening here, and it didn't. It didn't happen here. Like, I think at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a call from Washington, Mayor, can you close the bridge? We had already done it. We were already under patrol. We in Laredo were the first Homeland Security and have always been the first Homeland Security. In fact, way before there was a Homeland Department and everybody talked about that, I was saying it in speeches, even when I was in a bank situation. Why? Because I knew that our community was well protected and protecting the rest of the United States of America.
And it has to stay that way. And we have to embrace that.
More than ever.
And more than ever. And we have to understand that that is our duty.
That's right.
We can't blame anybody else. It is our duty. This is the door, so we better protect it.
That's right.
And
Just
we as
like,
citizens, we better understand that we have to protect that gate.
yes.
And sometimes we have to close it and sometimes we have to open it. And there's nothing racial against that or racist against that. That's just our duty.
That's right.
Plain and simple. Just like Mexico, Nuevo Laredo has a duty to do the same thing.
That's
And
right.
we respect each other in that forum. I remember that day. I was sitting down actually with Hector Farias.
Oh,
And excellent man. He's an enigma.
absolutely.
And-
Absolutely.
And we're sitting down and we're having breakfast. We're talking about some stuff we're doing with boxing. And we saw it hit. And he goes, oh, look at that action movie. And I looked up and I saw the TV and I go, wait a minute, it's not a movie.
It's the news.
It's the news. And then the other plane hit. And that's when we realized that we had been attacked. And from then on, the United States citizens, American citizens, United States citizens of America lost their freedom.
The sense of freedom.
people that we in Laredo, you just mentioned, every time we leave, we get, where are you from, and are you sure you're from there? We go that every time we leave Laredo on 35 or whichever way. Others started experiencing that when they're going through the airport.
Yeah.
Not as bad, but they do.
Yeah, and it escalated. And I know people were sometimes felt bad that they were being that and felt, like they were being abused. But it's part of what you do when you're trying to keep a community safe and the rest of the country safe. And we've, like I said, Homeland Security started here at the border. Because I went in July, pre-September 11th, I went to Canada. And those people over there, they had carpal tunnel elbow from doing this. They didn't stop anybody, they didn't check anybody, they didn't ask anything. One time a friend of mine that had been in Canada for a while had their little Winnebago, and they were crossing, and they crossed and everything was fine. And then finally the guy said, okay guys, go ahead and go. And he says, oh, by the way, where are you going? And they said, oh, Laredo, Texas. The minute they said Laredo, Texas, it's like take apart the Winnebago. 3 or 4 hours later, they were let go. Why? Why do people think we don't have security here when we have the most
Of the security that exists.
Even, our police officers have very well been trained. They've been police officers on the border of another country, a third world country. That is different than being a police officer anywhere else. They're better trained, they're more experienced. They have so many other challenges.
And we have excellent police officers. We have excellent first responders. Thank you all for being there. Number one, because if it wasn't for you all, many of us wouldn't be here.
That's right.
Because they lay down their lives. When an accident happens, they'll go into that building and pull you out. Or that car that rolled over. They're the first ones there and the first responders. And, and I've talked to many and they think that people are chastising them or whatnot. No. You guys, we praise you.
Yes.
We praise you. Now, in Laredo, what would you do different, Morita, if you were mayor? If you were mayor and would say, I want to change Laredo's direction for the next 10 years, because you did that with the bridge. I want to change Laredo's direction the next.
Well, Paul, funny you ask, because I think that's already happened. We had this Viva Laredo comprehensive plan, and we had a lot of community meetings with the public, with citizens, and they came in, the public, regular citizens came in and said, okay, this meeting's about housing, this is what I want. This meeting's about education, this is what I want. This meeting's about downtown, this is what I want. And everybody contributed. Everybody in Laredo, we had large groups of people come in and give Laredo some direction. We now have a comprehensive plan based on what Laredoans want. So we need to follow that plan, and I think the city is doing a very good job of doing that and following it, but it's all about funding. And how do we get funding? We get funding, a lot of federal funding, based on who votes and who's counted, period.
The census.
That's right. And people say, well, what does it matter to me if I'm not counted? Well, it may matter the next time they go pave your street or build another school or anything in Laredo, because we depend on federal funds. We are a city that receives directly federal funds. And so we've got to be a voice out there. We've got to be somebody that is going to be reckoned with. And who better than the citizen who says, I'm here.
So, and it's funny because right now, I think next year it's going to be census count again.
We're
at that
we're
point.
in the process.
And people, do not be afraid. Go out there and register on the census. It's very important. For
Very
many
important.
reasons, it's very important.
Yes.
For many reasons, it's very important. And think people are afraid because of some of their statuses and stuff like that. No, but if you're a U.S. citizen, put it down there that you are.
Yes, and
And
nobody's
I mean,
gonna,
and register. Period.
and register. Nobody's going to ask you if you are or you aren't, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're using Laredo as a place to live. And if you're using Laredo as a place to live, you need to be counted so Laredo can receive federal funds. Period.
On that note, and something that just popped up, we have many residents of Laredo. Let's use the word residents, not citizens. Use the word residents of Laredo that have different statuses. Some are U.S. citizens, some are resident aliens, some are permanent aliens, some are not here illegally. And I think we as a community should help those that have been here and been great citizens, have had productive kids and everything else, get their citizenship and fix their immigration status. I think we as a community need to do that. The city or something, and say, you know what, we'll help you there. Let's come to this office. Let's help you with this. You don't have enough to do this. Let's guide you through that, because it is a process. And I think things will change a lot different, because we all have that one aunt that's there. We all have that one friend that's scared and, no, me van a deportar, we're gonna get deported. Nobody's gonna deport you. Let's get you straight.
You know, Paul, that's a brilliant thing to say, because if this community really got together and did that, but I also think we need to voice the fact that we need to change our immigration laws.
Oh, big time.
And you know, our senators, Senator Cornyn and others across the aisle, they have come up with a good immigration plan, but the president won't look at it. We need to do that, because we need to figure out how we can bring people in and how there is a legitimate flow of immigration statuses that change, and make it easy for people that are qualified to come in to go through the process. But we make it so difficult that, can you imagine, I mean, some people that don't know anybody, that don't know where to go, that maybe don't know the language, they're scared, they don't know what to do, they're helpless.
You know, in changing a note, and we have in the United States, we have many people that are here illegally, and they go through the shadows of our society. They might work with a social security number that was whatever. And they're so afraid, and they live in the shadow of, I'm hiding. And these are good individuals. These are good people that are productive in our communities, many communities throughout the United States. And when you look at them, they're afraid. They're afraid to say that where they're from. Yes, they might go to the restaurant there. They live in a niche group. It's really an ugly feeling to live that way. So let's help them out. If they've been here 10, 20 years and they've been working, they're not criminals. They don't have no arrests. They're good citizens. Let's help them become.
Absolutely. That's the same thing I feel about DACA. And you know, in my campaign, there was a young lady that worked with me who was brilliant. She did all the block and the censuses and all the things you have to do on the computer to figure out who voted, who didn't vote, and how we were going to do the block walking. And she had a 4-year scholarship to Baylor University up until the day that she found out she was not a United States citizen. And she did not know that.
And many of them are like that.
Oh my God, my heart was so broken because of that. And I lost touch with her, and I don't know what's happened to her, and I would love to reconnect, because she was such a humble, wonderful person. And then to have to go through that, I mean, those are people we need to be helping, because they can be very good contributing citizens of these United States.
Absolutely. I mean, there have been instances where police officers find out later on, and they've been working as police officers, that they were brought here illegally.
Oh.
And because of something else, and you know, and the whole night, you know, we need to, it destroys families when that happens. And it's not because the president's fault, it's just something that everybody has kicked that can to the next one, and let's kick the can down the street. Well, the can already stopped. Let's do something about it. Let's stop kicking the can. That can stopped a long time ago. Let's do something.
I agree.
Right? And
I agree.
and I think that's our first step, is for everybody to come into consensus and say, you know, we need to fix it now.
Yes.
And it's not about political,
No.
what side, right, left, up, down. It's let's do it now, because
Right.
we have lives at stake.
No more finger pointing. Let's just get it done. I agree.
And I agree that hopefully our city could take that in that direction and form some kind of, you need help, you're here, you're a good citizen, the police can do the background check, the sheriffs are there doing the background check, you have no arrest warrants, you know what, we're gonna help you in your immigration process.
That would be so fabulous if we could construct something like that. We need to talk to Congressman Cuellar about it.
Sure, 'cause I think that's an excellent idea, because everybody has that one sobrino, that everybody has one. Here in Laredo, I'm sorry, we all have one.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, they run scared. They don't want to go here. They want, you know, why are you scared?
And some that we may not even know.
Yeah.
And maybe they believe they were fine because they've been here all their lives.
Sure.
They don't know any different.
Some of them don't even speak Spanish.
That's right.
And some of them don't speak Spanish. They speak English fluently. If you tell them something in Spanish, they look at you cross-eyed.
Right.
And then they find out that, wait a minute,
Can you imagine?
what I don't like is those that served in the
Oh,
army,
I
and they
know.
come back and they say, you have to go back. What is that? I always thought that, I was always under the impression that when you finish your service in the armed services, you can become a U.S. citizen. I don't know, how come we haven't done that?
Because we haven't changed our immigration laws. Because they still stink. They were made back when things were different. Things are way different now. We needed young men for our war. We needed a lot of, you know, good people to come in and improve our communities. And we never changed our immigration laws.
And that's sad. It's sad. So, what now? So, are you, so back again, are you gonna run?
Well, I surely am thinking about running to represent that district. Del Mar kind of runs into that district, and I live pretty much like friend of mine just said, on the fringes. But I know enough about that community, at least from the things that have developed commercially and residential wise, the things that are lacking, the things that we have added on, because there are many parks, there are many schools, so we've tried to do a good job. But like the HEB was going to build an HEB over there, and that went sour. And that would have been helpful because those people wouldn't have had to cross back into 35 to come to the grocery store, to the main grocery store in Laredo. So there's a lot of things that I think I could probably work on and contribute to that community. And I'm hoping that I get the opportunity. There's one other young man that's running that I don't want to really run against, but he's got conflicts because of his business status. And I think he needs to really look at that. I think we need him more where he is now, and maybe he can wait, you know, and run later, so that I can run.
Well, it'll be great for you to run again.
Thanks.
And if you decide to run, and if you do get into that office, and you know, God bless you.
Thank you.
And I think you're going to change things going over the different
thank you.
perspective. How do you see the council now? How do you see it now, since when you were there, before you were there, when you were there afterward? What has changed?
Well, I think before I was there was just a lot of infighting that was not, it was more personalities, I think, driven. I don't know. I'm not quite sure, and I don't want to say that much, but when I was there, I felt like I respected everyone. Even if I didn't agree with that council member, that council member represented a community that some of those people voted for me, and I needed to respect that. So I never really engaged with anybody because I felt everyone merited the respect. They were represented a part of my community that I love. And so I think there has to be respect. I don't remember my council members missing council meetings the way that it started happening. And I don't know if it's still going on, but there was a time when people just didn't show up to a council meeting. That was unheard of in my time. Everybody,
Sure.
every council member wanted to be there to protect their interest for their communities. And I think that needs to continue. And I hope that it does. And I think we have a lot of responsible people on the council right now. And I think they all want to do well. And I wish them the very best, because it's not an easy job. And it's not a part-time job. You've got to be front and center if you're going to be representing your community.
You're absolutely correct. I think it has changed. Back 25, 30 years ago, it might have been a part-time job. You come in and, okay, let's vote what it is, because it was a little bit different then.
Right.
Now it's overgrown. I mean, it's just has grown dramatically,
A
that you
lot
better
of-
be on top of what's going on, because there's so many different outlets that are coming in, there's so many different decisions that are being made, that you have to be on top of your community where you're at, because there's a lot of changes.
Yes.
There's a lot of changes.
Yes, and it's political leadership. It's not getting down deep in the throngs of the management. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have anything to do with the direction the directors are taking. That's up to your city manager. So once you decide on who your new city manager is going to be, or even these interim city managers we have, let them do their job. Let them direct their employees and the people that work under them. Don't get involved in the nitty-gritty. That's not your job. Your job is to be the political leader of that community and focus on the issues that affect your community and be the spokesperson for or against something that you believe in.
Something that's needed.
Very much.
And if you might not be for a park that's being constructed in your area, but if the community wants it, you have to voice it. Regardless whether you want it or not, or it's your feelings or not, you have to voice for what the community wants.
That's right.
And
You
that's
have-
that's very hard to do. Very few are doing it now. But I've seen difference. Since the 20 years that I've been back, I've seen the difference with how individuals have taken. There were a lot of different personalities. There was a lot of, you better do what I do or not do, and that's not what it's about. I think now the consensus that I get from the city council is that everybody wants to work together for a benefit.
That's right, for the greater good.
Right, so it's no longer I'm for the south, I'm for the center, let's just do
No.
this, let's work this for Laredo. I'm seeing more city councilmen say, you know what, I'm right next to you, let's help each other out.
That's right.
Which you didn't see before.
It's very,
So it's
very
changing.
important, yes. The common good, the greater good, you need to do that because your community is not just gonna stay here. It's gonna travel this way and that way and the other way. And it's got, and that community has relatives in other places. So what you do for others helps you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anything else you'd like to tell Lorraine?
Well, Paul, I'm just so proud of Laredoans and the way that, we hear about a lot of the kids that have taken the wrong path.
Sure.
But every day in the paper, there are kids that are excelling in their profession. They're excelling in their schools. They're excelling in their sports. They're excelling in their community. And I think that makes Laredo strong. We are Laredo strong. And when the mayor says Viva Laredo, he's talking about us. We are strong.
No, you're absolutely right, and he's a good mayor. He's good, he's understanding it, and I think he's been shaken up a little bit, but I think now he's trying to at least do something forward. And he got very passionate with it, especially with what the Laredo Morning Times came of age. Remember?
Oh.
But I'm of the other kind of person that, let's look into why. I want to see the poll What was it? ¿Qué fue? If you don't demonstrate that, then don't worry about it, continue moving forward. But let's see why, because if somebody said something, let's fix it.
Yes.
If that's what it is, let's fix it, and we're gonna be better.
Yes,
Understand?
everybody's trying their best.
And all sides and everybody
Yeah.
else.
You know, a politician is not a magician.
Of course.
He can't pull a rabbit out of a hat, but he can certainly, or she can certainly work very hard for their district and do the best they can. That's all we are, just human beings doing the
Absolutely.
best we can.
Again,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
very
thank you
much.
for the time that you had in there, it was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
And thanks for coming here. Again, folks, kids are still out, school's not going back until next week, so let's be careful out there. And next Tuesday, Wednesday, most school districts are gonna start. And let's be careful in the mornings and the afternoons. Let's not text and drive. Peace.
Good job.
If you've ever wondered, if you ever had a clue what would happen if Batman, the Avengers, the X-Men fought the 47 Ronin, you will have great hitting, power strikes, and speed. This event will be known as the North Texas Stick Fighting Championships. It's open to all martial artists. This is where legends are formed, where they're forged, where they are founded. Sign up now. Call the number 956-401-4868 and look up the website at www.savate.biz. So remember, this is for serious martial artists. If you're not serious, sit back and whisper about the event. If not, we'll see you there. Gloves Off is always on point. On point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by the best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off.